All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Dungan-Mott Music Movie Podcast. I'm Devin Dunnigan, and here with me, as always, is Mr. Stephen Mott. How you doing, brother?
Doing great today. Yes. Oh my, thank you. Next, Bit Chaser. Yes. Bye.
All right, so yeah, pretty much what he said. So this is going to be a companion to my previous pick, which was the worst albums by popular bands. This is going to be part two, and these are going to be Steven's picks this time around. So I had picked the ones involved in the last episode. Those were my 10, I believe, is how many I picked altogether. Now, the way I did this was it was one song per band, but I think Steven may have did it a little bit different. And we're going to get further into that as we go on. But before we do, Steven, do you have anything to say about your overall list and how you're going to kind of give your list? So, ask you.
Well, my list was not organized at all. It was literally as it came to me. I kind of thought about particular albums that I just absolutely hated, but mainly it was just stuff that on top of my head that we've always talked about we hated, and then when I couldn't come up with anything else that I absolutely hated, I just pretty much just more kind of went by the albums that I hated that we've reviewed, and then I just kind of more went from there and said, okay, Motley Crue, I hate this album, and you know Kiss, I hate this album for because it was basically it wasn't even a studio album, so bye.
All righty, so we're going to change things up a little bit with this episode. I'm going to let Steven kind of give each part of his list as we go on down. And I guess we'll just kind of pass things back and forth like we did with the last episode. So, Steven, give your very first, I guess, what would be your number 10?
Oh, so we're gonna go backwards. Okay, that's interesting. All right. So my number, I'm just gonna do it like this. So not my number one, number 10, one. Okay, so Pleasure Dome. Oh yes, oh my. So we got some random Sammy Hagar belligerent nonsensical babblings in the verses, and in the chorus, and right before the chorus it seems to have a pretty good direction, but Sammy chooses to go, just a half-ass route with this, and it's just a shame, man. I mean, it really could have been a really good song, but then it's just, live. If memory serves, they do this as an instrumental live, and it goes so much better. Like, just let it focus on Alex and Van Halen, Eddie Van Halen, just jamming out, and just don't throw all this stupid crap over it. I mean, just stop. And there's two sets of songs that are from the same album. And we're gonna get and no, actually more than that, ain't it? Let me think here. No, I think it's just two sets, but anyway, I digress. So this song had potential. It could have been good. It just flopped over and died at the end. So just bye.
So, yeah, Pleasure Dome. So, this particular track for me is pretty good musically. Now, when it comes down to the lyrics, to me, this is definitely Van Halen doing the kind of, they're trying to do Rush and they do it terribly. Like, it's Sammy's doing this real, like, spoken word kind of idea. And to me, that's kind of the reason Sammy Hagar is genuinely a weaker overall frontman than David Lee Roth was, because he tries too hard to be stuff that he isn't. And I think we're going to get further on into this list and see that even more. But to me, this is like Sammy Hagar trying to do something very philosophical, and it just falls apart. And like lyrics in this song, like "Rooms Without Doors Open for Me," like it's just like, okay, whatever. Like it's just stupid lyrics. Now the version that's on a live album, when they do it instrumentally, if that's even a word, but they just strip it down. They do it. It's just Alex, Eddie, and Mike, and then it goes into the drum solo. Like that is actually very, very cool. And that's to me the way this album should have been. Like the music and all, it's really, really cool. But yeah, Sammy, he's the weak point of this song. Like, he's just trying to do something way too far into left field and something that's very un-Van Halen like. And I think it just falls apart. To me, like this probably more than likely started as an instrumental track. I mean, that's what it seems like to me. And just Sammy said, okay, I'm going to add some lyrics to it. And it just kind of should have stayed an instrumental track. But anyway, so Stephen, what is your number 9?
Oh, yes. Okay. Oh, yeah. While we're on the Van Halen subject and Sammy Hagar subject, Sammy is the reason that these songs are on this list. It's not that they're horrible music. Well, one of them is bad musically, but the rest of them not so bad. So yeah, we've got Inside, the last track off of 5150, and we've got another one coming up off of the same record. Spoiler alert. So, yeah, you can kind of get an idea of what I think of this album. Half of this album is good, and the other half is bad. That's it. It should have been put out as an EP, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, an electric pupil is what it should be put out as. So yeah, ACDC. But anyway, so Inside Van Halen, it's basically them trying to do another Brick in the Wall, Pink Floyd over again, and it just fails dramatically. I mean, that's all I can think of. And then obviously Sammy, wanting to do all this, sleazy crap in there and trying to basically be like Hot for Teacher, I guess, part 2, kind of like Dave ish, is what I get the vibe from him. Kind of like Dave does that sometimes with his solo records. He'll do that spoken word stuff. And there's a couple of examples I'm thinking of, like Yankee Rose, for example, like where how it opens up with the spoken word and all that. And I feel like Sammy kind of took a page out of DLR's book with that. I could be wrong. He could just be totally just doing that, but I feel like he got that from David Lee Roth for some reason. But that's besides the point. It's just when Dave does it, it makes sense for some reason. I mean, I don't know if it makes sense per se, but it just kind of gels well. I don't know. Sammy's just not good at it. So, bye.
All righty, so Inside. So to me, Inside is, so musically it's altogether not horrible. It's it's kind of interesting. Like it's definitely trying to be more in line to like some of the stuff on 1984, like Jump and I'll Wait, that synth sound, but then adding a little bit of heaviness to it. This song, I think, be perfectly honest, take the keyboards out and maybe, just maybe, and like kind of beef up the guitars a little bit, beef up the rhythm guitar and all. If Dave was on vocals with his writing style, this might have been kind of decent. But as it is, this song is not very good. Like it's Sammy trying to kind of do this rap rock kind of sound, and it just fails miserably. I'm not a fan of it. Like to me, it ends the album off on a bad note, and it's an album that I mean, I generally I like the record for what it is. I mean, there are some songs on there I could give a crap less about, but and I think there's one coming up that we're going to talk about that is the case. But to me, it's like kind of in general a pretty good album. But this song to me is once again like with Pleasure Dome. This is the reason that so many people hate Sammy Hagar. Like this song just doesn't sound like Van Halen. Like it's just way too far removed from that original sound. And Sammy is trying to be clever and he's trying to be, oh, like I'm hip and this, that, and the other thing. And no, he's not. He's not hip. Like he's stupid, or the lyrics are stupid. And he's trying to strain his voice way too much. And to me, that becomes an issue of a lot of these albums with Sammy is like he tries way too hard to hit notes that he can't hit. And I think at the end of the day, he kind of blew his voice out toward the end of his tenure in the band because he did so much of that. Because he was singing way out of his range in places. And like when you look at his solo career, like he was writing a lot of these songs. So then, right then and there, you're kind of seeing something more natural to his range. But with Van Halen, he's writing something or he's at least writing to something that is kind of, it's Eddie Van Halen's baby, essentially. It's his music. So, yeah, that's kind of where I stand on Inside. Like musically and like the overall, like kind of the rhythm guitar and stuff, like it's not horrible and it could have been something, but it's like, this is like a pale imitation of Michael Jackson. Like, this is like Van Halen's attempt to do something like Beat It, and it's just not good. It falls apart wherever the seams split. Like they bust. That's the best way I can explain this song. Very bad song. Not a fan. And this was one of the few songs off of 5150. It might have been the only song off of 5150 they didn't even play live. I don't think they ever played this once on the tour. So that's all I got. So Steven, you're number 8.
Yeah, that was a very interesting analogy you just made there. But anyway, so yeah, let's get into the next track. Number 3. It's actually, I kind of did this in inverse order. I should have I should have done it like Get Up then Inside, because that's the order that it's on the album. Kind of did it backwards, but anyway, Get Up. 2023 remaster actually, but that doesn't matter. It sounds the same as it did before. This is pretty much just a beat and with music over it, and pretty much Sammy, I don't want to say rapping over it, but he's just kind of pretty much screaming over it. That's all he's doing. He just wanted to scream just in unintelligible things. I mean, tell me what this song is about, because I'd like to know. Um, in fact, I'd like to know what any of this stuff is on this whole list is about. I mean, furthermore, that musically, this is probably some of the only stuff. Like this song in particular might be the worst thing Eddie Van Halen ever did musically. Like it's just kind of, for him, it's, his other riffs are very complex, and this one's just one of those that's, he was playing around with a weird kind of guitar, and I think Sammy just said, "Oh well, yeah, let's just roll with that," and one of those type of things that he was just spur of the moment, and he was like, Sammy was like, "Oh, let's keep this." I can tell this has got Sammy written all over it. This is one of those things like where the band was probably warming up with this or something, and then Sammy was like, "Okay, let's keep it." But I hate it. That's all I can say. It's basically screaming and trying to be like this fast, like runaway train type of sound, and it's Van Halen. It's something Van Halen, it's kind of trying to be like Hot for Teacher had that sort of feel to it, that kind of runaway train or that kind of same drum beat. But for some reason, this felt forced. It just felt like a straightforward AC/DC almost kind of does this stuff too. But the way they do that with every song. Their songs all kind of sound the same, but in a good way because that's just their style. But Van Halen is not like that. They kind of Eddie is more of a his style is very complex. It's kind of like he plays these different tunes and different notes and stuff that's kind of out there. I don't know how to explain it better than that, but that's just the best I can come up with, really. He's using this guitar that's got this whammy bar on it, and it's just, I don't know, this riff sucks. That's all I can say. I mean, this is the worst thing Eddie ever did. So, bye.
So I completely agree. Yeah, I'm pretty well. Like now that you say that about this was probably something they were warming up with. This was kind of an idea that Sammy took and said, okay, let me just do something with this. And just let me just babble on random crap. This right here is the sheer difference between David Lee Roth. And I'm not going to sit here and this isn't like a bash Sammy fest. Like this is honestly not that. Because I mean, I like a lot of Van Hagar stuff. But to me, that's the difference between Sammy and Dave. Dave could have taken something like this and really did something. He could have really done something with it. But in Sammy's case, it's more or less like, and I know we've talked about it before in past episodes. I mean, probably in various episodes in the past. I couldn't even pinpoint which one. Dave pretty much, he held Eddie to a certain, he held him kind of to a certain statute, or that's not the word I'm looking for, statute. He held him to a certain kind of, you can edit this out if you want to when you're
standard.
Editing. Yeah, he held him to a certain standard as a guitar player, and he knew what the Van Halen sound was, and that was what he wanted to really stick to with Eddie. With Sammy's case, Sammy just kind of said, okay, you're Eddie Van Halen. You're the best rock and roll guitar player that has ever lived. You have completely reinvented the way to play the electric guitar. And that guitar you're talking about was a Steinberger. It was the one that didn't have the tuning peg on the top of it. It was on the back of the neck. It's a little short guitar that he played a lot back then. A lot of people hated those guitars from back then. But anyway, Sammy just kind of let Eddie do whatever, and he just kind of wrote to what Eddie had, where Dave took what Eddie had and said, okay, like Eddie, I think Dave wasn't afraid to tell Eddie, okay, this is stupid. We're not doing this. We're not gonna do this kind of music. That's not Van Halen. The idea is stupid. Take it and do something else with it. And I think with Sammy was like, okay, that's a cool idea. Let me try something with this. I mean, that's the reason you would have never gotten something like, trying to think of a song from the Hagar era, like maybe something like musically Feels So Good or Mine All Mine. Like you wouldn't have gotten something like that out of Dave, because Dave probably would have said, that's not Van Halen. That's not what Van Halen sounds like. Or maybe even like an Inside, maybe. But to me, like I said, with Inside, though, it has kind of a heaviness. But like the real experimental tracks that Eddie did with Sammy would have never gotten by. That's the point I'm trying to make. It would have never gotten by with Dave. To me, Dave really held Eddie to, yes, a certain standard. And to me, Sammy just kind of let him do what he wanted to. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's the reason that, I mean, the two front men are it led the band into to be two completely different bands, just with similar members. But anyway, so Get Up, it's a terrible song. It's possibly one, and I think we did a worst Van Halen episode one time. I'm not sure what my worst Van Halen song was. It could have very well have been Inside, but to me right now as a whole, and I mean I'm even counting some of the Van Hagel or the Van Sharon stuff. Like this is the worst Van Halen song to me overall. This like the idea is okay. Like the musically, it's kind of heavy, and that's fine. Like, but it's kind of like heavy for the sake of being heavy. And the lyrics are juvenile. No pun intended. That's an in joke between me and Steven. But it's just like this is what a high schooler would write for lyrics. Like, oh, I'm going to be rebellious. I'm a man. Like, I'm going to write this lyrics. Like, I'm going into town. I'm going to act a fool. I'm going to pick up some women. Stupid crap like that. And it's kind of, once again, kind of to me, Sammy trying to be Dave. And that's kind of what I think he was trying to do with Inside as well. Like he was trying to kind of do the clever play on words that Dave used to do a lot. And I think it's the same thing with this. And then the chorus is stupid, like get up, make it work, stupid, terrible, crappy chorus. But yeah, overall, not a good song. I completely agree. Bad song. And to me, did I pick this song in the worst Van Halen? I'm sure I did, and I don't know what I picked on mine in my previous list. I'd have to go back and look. I'm not right now. Anyway, so Steven, what is your number? We're at number 7, I believe. So, what is your number 7?
Oh yes, oh my. Number. Let's see. Oh yes, Devin. This is one of your favorites here. Leonard Skinner, God and Guns. We got Floyd. They're trying to be all, you know, trashy, trashy redneck country and everything. But it just comes off as just lame, and I just don't know, man. Like like I told Devin earlier, it just speaks for itself. Like this song, you hear the first little bit of it, and you're like, "What the hell is this?" And then it keeps going, and when it gets into the verse, you're like, "Oh no!" And then when it gets into the chorus, you're like, "Really?" Like, "Oh God, I gotta shut this off." Like you'll get to that first chorus, and you'll cut it off every time. It pretty much. And the funny thing is that album, that God and Guns, is not that album is not this bad. Like you got this album and you have this one song that you're like, what the hell is this? And the rest of the songs are not that bad. This is a decent album. And then you've got this random, I guess that's what you get when you have these outside songwriters. And I know we're on this subject again, but I mean that's why I attribute this kind of stuff too. You got these songwriters that are throwing stuff in there that are they're like, okay, well this sounds like old style Skinner, and we're throwing a modern twist to it, and you're just like, no, and I mean this is not. I feel like it sounds like maybe JVZ probably did have a something in writing this, but I feel like he's not the only one who wrote this. I feel like somebody from California said, okay, this sounds southern. It sounds good and it sounds, hip. So let's do this. And you're just like, no. So bye.
All right, so Floyd, God and Guns, 2009. So yeah, when we did this episode, or when we did this album a long time ago, I think it was when we first changed over to DTM. Was whose pick was this? It may have been Pete's pick when we first did this episode. I can't even remember, but that was the first time I had ever actually listened to this album. So going into it blindly, like it was kind of surprising. Like I was kind of interested and to kind of hear these songs and kind of see what stood out to me. And I actually liked a lot of this album, like Still Unbroken, and then what was the other one? I think Simple Life was the song. That was another one that was a pretty good track. What else? I can't remember any of the other stuff on here. Skinner Nation to me works better in a live setting, but the rest of the album, like That Ain't My America, it's just modern country crap to me. I mean, the title track, I like the lyrics, but to me, it's just not my cup of tea. That kind of like country rock kind of stuff, and I like country music. Don't get me wrong, but like modern country is just not. I'm not a big fan of. Granted, I'm not as well versed in it, but yeah, Floyd to me. So the album was produced by Bob Marlette, and Bob Marlette was known as kind of an industrial producer back in the '90s. He did so. I want to say, trying to think of the albums he did. I think he did the album Boyers by that band Two that Rob Halford and John Five did. So there's the John Five connection. And I think he did some industrial stuff in the night. I can't remember. I know he did the two new tracks that were on the Black Sabbath reunion album. So Psycho Man and I think Selling My Soul was the other one. But and I thought both of those songs were pretty good. But anyway, so Bob Marlette producing a Skinner album was kind of an interesting idea. But like I went back and revisited this album after I bought it. I bought it for cheap off of eBay. It's been like I think back last year, and I listened to this record again for the first time in a while. And I was like, this is not that bad. Like it has some good songs on it, but like some of it is just it's very much taking that song Red, White, and Blue, which I really love that song that was on Vicious Cycle, and just kind of trying to make every song on this album be that, and then trying to do similar stuff to like Freebird, Sweet Home Alabama, stuff like that. But anyway, so Floyd, getting back to the subject at hand here. So I kind of got off on a tangent there. Floyd, to me, now Skinner have had their share of bad songs since the band reunited in '87. Since they've started making albums, I talked about one that I really hated, and my pick, which was "Mama Afraid to Say Goodbye" off of 1991. To me, this song is one of the absolute worst Skinner songs. To me, if this may have been like Rob Zombie doing sort of a Skinner-esque kind of Southern rock style track, this might have been good. But to me, this is Leonard Skinner. Like these are Southern rock veterans, and to me, as a whole, like Stephen was talking about with the whole like outside songwriters ordeal, and I know that's a common thread when we do these kind of episodes, like the outside songwriters and like what they really mean to a lot of these songs. To me, it becomes prevalent that some of this crap is outside people looking in saying, okay, here's your Skinner song. This is about a guy in the swamp. And like, it's just not good. And like the chorus is I, such and such. I don't even know what the chorus is. And you got like Rob Zombie singing back up. And like, that's kind of like Rob Zombie singing back up on the Skinner song is interesting. It's an interesting idea, but like, this is the exact problem I have with post-crash Skinner a lot of times. Like their reliance on stuff that just doesn't sound like old school Skinner. And there's some stuff that doesn't sound like old school Skinner that I absolutely love. But this is not one of them. This is a bad song, in my opinion. I'm not a fan of it. I've never been a fan of it since the very first time I heard the album. I was like, this is crap. This is a crap song. So after that long diatribe, even take your number 6.
Oh, yes. All right, we got some Motley Crue coming up. Oh, yes. This one is going to be controversial to Devin. Yeah, I already know what he's going to say about this, but we got Power to the Music. And pretty much all of these, except for, with the exception, let's see, of a couple of albums, like Sonic Boom, I don't think we've reviewed. I think we may have did the F album. I don't really remember. Anyway, so the majority of this stuff is like stuff we reviewed before off those albums. So it's kind of going back through the history of the podcast somewhat. But yeah, we have Power to the Music, Motley Crue. Yeah, I hate this album. So this pretty much was the culmination of this album, and I think this was probably the worst song on that album. I mean, I pretty much hated its guts. Like, I hate this album. It's not my cup of tea to begin with, truthfully, but it's definitely not something I would go back to and listen to. It's just kind of seems corny and forced. That's all I can say. It sounds like somebody that's trying to be, trying to sound grunge and hard, but it just comes across as just fake. I don't know. That's all I can think of. It's like fake and forced. I just get no enjoyment out of this. It's just something about the way these songs are structured. It's just it's common for that type of music, and it's just kind of fits into that mold, and they just wanted to make it just to a T the same way, but they could have kind of done something different with that. To me, kind of did something to change it up, but that's just me. But bye.
All righty, so Power to the Music from the 94 self-titled Motley Crue album, the Lone album with John Corabi. So I don't really remember that review all that much, but I'm pretty sure I give it a glowing review overall. I still stand by it. I still enjoy the record. It's not one, honestly, that I go back to a whole heck of a lot, but I still like it. I still think it's a good record. The production's a little bit, I wish the production was a little bit more straightforward because I just think it's kind of overproduced in places. There's a little bit too many bells and whistles, like with a more rawer, kind of early Motley Crue sound. Like this might have been much more, like people might have would have said, okay, this is not that bad. Like it's just a different singer. Because like at the heart of it, I think a lot of this album actually does sound like old school Motley Crue, like hammered. To me, like the riff of the song sounds kind of like a heavier version of something maybe off of like Dr. Feelgood or like Girls, Girls, Girls. Welcome to the Numb to me is kind of a similar situation. Like it kind of sounds like just kind of a heavier version like Primal Fear, or not Primal Fear, but Primal Scream that was on the Decade of Decadence CD. And then you have stuff like Poison Apples. Like I could see Vince singing on a lot of this stuff. Just I mean Vince has much more of a kind of hair metal voice than John Corabi did. John Corabi and hair metal maybe isn't the best term. Maybe he has a kind of a lighter voice than John Corabi, who has much more of a scruffier kind of street style voice. To me, like I've always enjoyed this particular song as well, and I think it is a great song. I love the breakdown in the middle when you have Tommy Lee going off on the drums. I think his drums shine on this record, and I've always thought Tommy Lee was a great drummer. Like you had great musicians in that band, but a lot of crappy songwriting. And I think finally, when you get to this record, that's when the songwriting sort of picks up a little bit. And then it kind of goes all the way back to the bottom when they get to Generation Swine. And that's an album I really want to watch, really want to listen to and review one of these days because I have a lot of things to say about that album. But anyway, Power to the Music, I enjoy it. I think it's a great song. And to me, it's just heavy Motley Crue. Yeah, it's very grungy. It's very of the time. It sounds very alternative. And to me, there's really nothing wrong with that. I think this was a kind of a good anthemic style, like opening to Motley Crue's new era. And like Power to the Music in the streets. Don't tell me to turn it down. Stuff like that. And I love all that kind of stuff. I think it is a great kind of it's just kind of a good call to the people, and to me that's just kind of that's not the word I'm looking for. I keep wanting to say cattle call, but that's not the word I'm looking for either. But anyway, so yeah, I like this song. I don't see this as being bad at all. Like to me, this is just a really good hard rocking just Motley Crue song. And to me, I consider this to be Motley Crue. Like there are elements of this I do legitimately see as being like an old school Motley Crue. Like everybody says, oh, it just doesn't sound like Motley Crue. Yeah, like it's a different singer, but like some of the music does sound similar to old school Motley Crue. So like I don't think it's that far off, to be honest. So anyway, that's your number 6, right? So I guess move on to your number 5.
All right, Mr. Big, alive and kicking. This riff grinds my nerves to no end. It's like it sounds out of tune, and obviously I know it's intended to sound that way, but I mean, it's like I know what they're going for. I guess I don't know what the word would be. I guess edgy, or I know what they're going for. It just comes across so cringy to me. The song itself is okay. I just this I mean this album is okay, but Green Tinted 60s Mind is a good song off that record, but I think it's on this record, but that particular song is just really bad to me. I like that guitar player. He's like a shredder pretty much. Like almost Steve Vai level shredder, and obviously Billy Sheehan is also the bass player. But I mean, that's besides the point. But this song on that album, when I got to this, I skip it every time. But it's one of those things I can't describe it. It's like nails up a chalkboard to me. But I don't know. It's just one of those things I can't really describe. It just sounds kind of just corny to me. That's all I can say. I just the style of guitar and the way he's doing it is just like, I can't stand it. So bye.
All right. So Alive and Kicking off of 1991. I believe it's when that album came out. Lean Into It. I have it here on the shelf somewhere. So this was something else that when we reviewed it, I had never really listened to this band. I knew most of the members in it. I think the drummer was it Pat Torpey was the drummer? I think he passed away since. And then you had Paul Gilbert on guitar, Eric Martin on vocals, and Billy Sheehan, of course. I knew him from David Lee Roth. But anyway, so Mr. Big, I'd only knew the song Addicted to That Rush. And then the drill song, Daddy, Your Brother, Your Lover, Your Little Boy, or whatever the song was on that record, which I thought the record as a whole was actually not that bad. And this song, I don't dislike it. I think it's just a good kind of straightforward rock song. I think it's fine. Like it's perfectly fine. I don't really have too much else to say about it. I re-listened to this album. It's been a little while ago, and it still held up for me. I still thought it was a pretty good record. So I mean, I can't say too much really about this song. I need to really listen to a lot of other Mr. Big to get kind of an overall view of their career and kind of their sound. But anyway, yeah. I mean, I thought this song was perfectly fine. Like I don't really see it being as like one of the worst at all. Like it's just kind of straightforward. It's about as straightforward as Mr. Big ever got, and maybe that could be considered as bad in their case because it's just so straightforward. Because like when you get into stuff like Green Tinted 60s Mind or Green Titted 60s Mind, as we always say, it's kind of like that riffage and all on that. Like that opening guitar work is like very interesting and very inventive and creative, which I mean that's the same word. But anyway, so yeah, I enjoy this song and I enjoy this album, and I need to check out more of their discography. I've only ever heard the first one. I mean, or I've only ever heard Lean Into It. I've never heard the first one or any of the stuff. Like once I believe what was the guy? Was it Richie Kotzen that joined the band after? I think it was Richie Kotzen that joined the band after Paul Gilbert left. So anyway, that's it. That's all I have to say. That's the end of the podcast. I'm just kidding. So anyway, so Stephen, take your number. I think we're at number 4 now. So take that.
Yeah. Oh my. So I knew there was a couple on here that you would probably be about, but okay. So we got Rain by Kiss. Oh yes. Carnival of Souls, man. I hate this record. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's why there's two on. There's a 2 for Tuesday on here. 2 meat special. Okay, so Rotten Meat, Rain, Kiss. I mean, Paul Stanley trying to sing this stuff is forced. They made him do it. Gene made him do this. He doesn't want to be there. You can tell on the album cover. He doesn't want to be there. I mean, come on, Kiss. I mean, this is. I mean, and we're talking about like literally some of the worst shit like I've ever heard. I mean, and they go around, and of course, you know, they're gonna have some crap like this to where they're gonna try to emulate some kind of other band with Bruce Kulick, and he's a great guitar player. But you know, and you know, he does really good with this rock stuff. But when it comes to this record, I'm just like, man, like it's just stop. And I mean, Kiss, you're the main freaking one, man. Like honestly, I mean, this stuff just highly triggers me to my core. So yeah, Paul Stanley is trying to. He was made to be there, and because I know that if he didn't sing at least a couple songs on this record, I mean, I guess he wouldn't be considered part of the band because I mean, I guess he played some on it. I doubt it. I doubt he played any guitar on this record. Probably Bruce did all of it, and then maybe Gene did some. I would guess, probably not. But I mean, Paul probably hated this record, and I know for a fact he probably hated this because it's not Kiss. It's probably it should have been a Gene Simmons solo album. Is what it should have been. If Gene wanted to go and do this crap, then let him. But you know, I just don't see it being a Kiss stuff. I mean, it's I don't see it being a part of the discography because it's literally a demo album. Like, just don't just buy.
All righty, so that's my cue to start talking. So, Rain. Kiss Rain or Kiss the Rain. And so Kiss Rain from Carnival of Souls, the final sessions, 1997. So produced by Toby Wright. Now we reviewed this record, and the reason I said produced by Toby Wright because it's going to lead into what I'm about to talk about. So this was released in 1997, and we reviewed this record, I think back during the New Ridgeline days when we had James Dean, whatever you want to call him, Dean on. And this was a very hectic review because Dean we had a lot of miscommunication, and he was fixed to review an entirely different record than what we were going to actually review. But that's just a little bit of behind the scenes stuff. So anyway, Gene basically when they went to Toby Wright and got him to produce the record, they pretty much said, okay, and this was Gene now. This was Gene's baby because by this time, Gene had taken control of Kiss again after Paul had taken control in the 80s. And basically, Gene said, okay, I want to do a grunge record. I want to be like Billy Corgan. And even Toby Wright was like, what? Why do you want to be like Billy Corgan? What part of Billy Corgan do you want to be? Like, why can't you just do what you do? Like, why don't you just do Kiss? And he was like, no, we want to do something contemporary. Paul Stanley, on the other hand, has said that why would I want to write grunge music because I don't hate my life? Well, Paul Stanley has personal issues overall in the long run. He has personal issues. He's a very, very haunted person in certain aspects. And I mean, if you listen to his book, like he talks about like how he was very overly critical of himself, and like, I mean, to me, yeah, this is Paul being forced to write this kind of music, but at the same time, I don't think some of this is that far off from what Paul Stanley's real personality at the time was like, because this was around, like, this was before his marriage had really deteriorated to his first wife, Pamela. I think Pamela Bowen was her name, or Bowen, something like that. But anyway, like, Paul Stanley has went on record saying, like, this was not an album that I was super proud of. Like, I'm just not a fan of it. Like, it just wasn't me. It was not my finest hour. And I think there are really good songs on this record. And it's kind of interesting, dude, how this episode's kind of turned in, just kind of going back through the old episodes. But anyway, so Paul Stanley does this kind of song, and this is a very sludgy, almost like old school Black Sabbath kind of song, kind of sound. And I actually kind of like this song. It's very dark, sludgy. It's very, very Kiss-like, and I think Paul has some great vocals on here. Overall, I think this song is pretty darn good. But anyway, so yeah, Rain, to me, I can kind of see it either way. Like, I like the song, and the album itself, like, I think I probably like about half of it. I think most of the Gene songs are fantastic, but the Kiss or the Paul Stanley songs are very, very in between. Like, this song, Master and Slave, and Jungle. Like, Jungle is, to me, a really good song. But like this song, Master and Slave is okay. I Will Be There, I'm not a big fan of. But to me, it's an album as a whole, though, and I know a great YouTuber, Ralph Vieira, he said, like, this album sounds unfinished. And I think it essentially was. Now, Toby Wright says it was finished, like this was the finished product that they were going to put out. But honestly, like, Paul and Gene dropped this album and went and did the reunion tour. And this album got shelved, and then it was bootlegged. So, like, I don't really know if this album was finished or not, because who knows if Gene and Paul would have said, okay, let's just go out to the public. And I think at the end of the day, if Gene and Paul if they had their way, they may have never released this. This might have been just like an unreleased album for Kiss, and like Psycho Circus would have been the next record. But I mean, this is the only Kiss album where I don't even think Gene has ever performed any of this on his solo tours. Now, Bruce has. He's performed a few of these songs on his tours that he's done as a solo artist, and like when he was in Union and stuff like that, and ESP, the Eric Singer Project. And Bruce loves this record. He thinks this album is great, but and I mean, mostly because this was his baby after Gene and Paul had jumped ship. But anyway, yeah, this song's okay. Like, it's fine. Like, I can kind of take it or leave it. It's very dark and very sludgy sounding, very kind of Alice in Chains sounding. I love Alice in Chains. I think they're a great band, and I love a lot of their albums. But yeah, the Kiss is not Alice in Chains, but I think this song is okay. And I think it's just a very atmospheric, doomy, sludgy song. So, Steven, your where are we at? Number 3 now?
Yeah. So, Van Halen, again, Source of Infection. Oh my, oh yes. So, I mean, we've got this great album in my IMO opinion. OU 812, and we got this very pop oriented album, keyboardy. Then we got this song in the middle, and you're like, what the hell? So, I mean, it's out there even for this record. Like, this record was not like that. And if you just listen to this song, you're like, what the heck? I mean, because you got a straight rock type of sound to it, which musically it's not that bad. But the main thing is what I mentioned before. What makes these songs on this list is Sammy Hagar. If it would have just been a normal song with normal, halfway just legitimate, just halfway sensical lyrics, and him, actually trying to make a decent rock song like he did in his earlier solo career, it's like on his own solo records, he makes a lot of effort and he puts a lot of effort into making his music really good and real rock songs. And when he gets with Van Halen, he starts from the very first album. He starts just goofing off and just not taking it seriously. And I just wonder why. It's like on his own albums, he takes it seriously, but with Van Halen, he doesn't for some odd reason. And it's not like he's the best lyricist ever anyway. You know, uh like driving, your love is driving me crazy. I mean, it's a good song, for example. It doesn't have the greatest lyrics in the world, but I mean, what rock songs do? Many of them, a lot of them don't. But that's besides the point. It's like this song has just got just a bunch of just random crap in it. Him making literal noises and stuff, and screaming, and just basically screaming into the mic, and just throwing stuff at the wall until it sticks. So I mean, this is just a half-assed, all-around, complete crap of a song. I mean, even he has come back and said that he should have put more effort into these songs, these couple songs we're talking about, and I'm just like, man, why didn't you? Like, why did you take this stuff? Why didn't you take, if you're in Van Halen, why didn't you take it seriously if you did with your solo career? So I'm interested to see Devin's take on that, if he agrees with my take that, that he didn't take his stint seriously in Van Halen.
So, picking up kind of where you left off. So, yeah, I at the end of the day think that he didn't take his stint seriously. I think, and you said this a long time ago, it might have even been off air before we recorded or something, but you was talking about where Eddie said in his book Eruption or whatever, where he basically took on the role as a kind of a matter of prestige. I think that was kind of it. And I think Sammy Hagar was at a point in his career, like he had had success with the VOA album, and he was kind of riding high off of that. Then he joins the biggest rock band in the world. So like he's like, okay, I can do whatever I want to do, and nothing can be said or done about it. And even Eddie Van Halen, I think, started to complain about his lyrics before everything was over with. And I think when Sammy left and went back and started doing his solo career, like even then, I think a lot of the lyrics and stuff like that started to suffer. But to me, like Sammy has always been a weak lyricist, even back in like the Montrose days. And I love that first Montrose album, but like even back then, like he was a weak lyricist. But I think the song that I remember was One Thing on My Mind, and that like the lyrics on that are terrible. But anyway, yes, I agree. Like he said like I did this song and I just kind of knew like okay, they'll buy it. We're Van Halen. There's nothing to worry about. Like, let's just do this. And I think at the end of the day, people bought it. But now, I mean, other than the hits, like other than like Right Now and When It's Love and Dreams and occasionally Love Walks In and Why Can't This Be Love, like what do you ever hear from Van Hagar? I mean, just those few songs. Like you never hear anything like Run Around. I think I might have heard like Standing on Top of the World at some point on the radio. But like you never hear like anything like with Van Halen, like classic Van Halen, you'll hear like You Really Got Me, Running with the Devil, Ain't Talking About Love, Jamie's Crying, Unchained. I've actually hear about it later on the radio on I think 100.7 here where we live at. Like I believe they played that on there, but like Like it's just very, like, to me, in the long run, you have to take a look and see what's more influential. And clearly, like, this version of Van Halen is or the classic version of Van Halen is what's most influential. But I think personally, yeah, I don't think he took this as seriously. And I just think he just kind of said, okay, let's just throw some words together. Let's do this. Let's do that. And I think Dave, being who he was at the time and being as iconic as he was, didn't help matters at all. I think Sammy was kind of in competition with David Lee Roth. And I think it was a situation of where he said, okay, if I can't beat him, then let me try to be him. Like, let me try to do things sort of like he would do. But musically, like, this song is pretty good. I think it's a very heavy song, and I don't mind the chorus and the pre-chorus, but the verses are non-existent. Like, there are no lyrics for the verses. Like, it's just clearly just Sammy scatty. That's it. And I think that's right there. I mean, that is the reason this is one of the worst Van Halen songs. Like, there are just no lyrics to it, and it's just goofy. And even Sammy has said, like, this is one of the songs where I was kind of like, this isn't cutting the mustard. And like, even Eddie toward the end, when he got into, like, they did Humans Be, some of the stuff he had written for that, even Eddie was to a point of like, okay, yeah, this is working. Like, this is getting way beyond stupid. Like I said, I do agree, but I mean, just kind of piggybacking off of what you were talking about, and that's, I mean, these are episode ideas within themselves, like concepts within themselves, like the legitimacy of Post Crash Skinner and Sammy Hagar as a musician and a songwriter and as a solo artist versus Van Halen. I mean, the legitimacy of Van Halen with Sammy Hagar, like, all of these things would make great episodes at some point, and are plenty of talking points. But anyway, and even the Kiss stuff, I mean, there are talking points for a million years with Kiss. But anyway, so Steven, that's all I got for this particular song. So I believe you're at your number 2 now.
Yes, we got number 2. So we got Kiss Taki continuations. Danger Us. So actually, I was put onto this song by Devin. We've never reviewed this album, Sonic Boom, but I don't really view this record as that bad. I just think that this song is just cheesy on the, just, it's just kind of comically cheesy. I mean, like, they had to know this was laughably bad. I mean, just to say the concept of Danger Us, I mean, it's so, like, cringy. And I mean, I'm just curious who actually came up with that, and also I would assume that they were probably high on something when they wrote this song. But it's kind of like I Am the Walrus. It's like one of those type of things. It's on the album because it's funny. I mean, that's it. That's the only reason it's on the album. And the actual riff is, I mean, it's kind of run of the mill. It's kind of like, this is the way I view Ace. It's kind of like he wrote songs kind of like AC/DC did, and we all know what that stands for, but that's besides the point. Um. Anyway, any cheese, deviant, cocker spaniel. That's what it stands for.
So, Danger Us, or Danger You, Danger Me, Danger Us. So I didn't remember this song, and then it just all of a sudden came back into my head. I thought this was what I was thinking about was a different song entirely. So, Sonic Boom is not one of my favorite Kiss albums. Now, I do give it a lot of props for trying to go back to the old sound. I think that Monster did this a lot better. But at the same time, this particular song is it's laughably bad, and Paul Stanley has never he hasn't he has never been he's never shied away from writing crap songs like My Way, and we talked about it in the last episode, Read My Body, and then stuff like, I'm trying to think of some of the other stuff from the 80s. When Your Walls Come Down, Bang Bang You, crap like that. I mean, even when you get into some of the stuff off of Unmasked, like what makes the world go round, isn't that great? Tomorrow's okay. That's okay. I'm all over the place here. But anyway, so danger you, danger me, danger us. So it's a pun on the word dangerous. And you was talking about it. You thought this was written as to be funny. I honestly would not be surprised if this was written entirely serious. It's a straightforward rocker, like all the way up to the chorus. It's actually not bad, but then when you get into the chorus, it's like 2 parts trouble, double down tough. I think that's the way it goes. Danger you, danger me, danger us. Terrible chorus, and it ruins this song. Like this song had a little bit of potential, but it completely falls flat. But Sonic Boom it's at the end of the day, it tried to be a kind of spiritual sequel to Rock and Roll Over, even down to the album art. But at the end of the day, I keep saying at the end of the day, but after all of this, like to me, Monster did what they were trying to do here much better. I think that was the true like return to form. I think it got back to like the first few albums where it was kind of going off of their overall influences. But Sonic Boom was it's like Kiss doing a Kiss album. I think a lot of times when bands like this begin to go back and rehash old material and try their best to make something that sounds like the old sound, they kind of fall apart. Like it just kind of falls flat. I mean, they tried it. Black Sabbath tried, and I know a lot of people love that Black Sabbath album 13. I was not a fan of it, other than like a couple of songs. And then like Van Halen surprisingly did great with it when they did A Different Kind of Truth. That's like a miracle that album ever turned out the way it did. But I mean, even when you get like Motley Crue went back to the basics with New Tattoo, like even then, that album, while it has its moments, overall is not very good. I'm trying to think of some of the other albums like this. I could throw in like Death Magnetic, like Metallica, but really and truly, like I've never heard that album, but I'm just based off of what I know, it's like trying to go back to the old school sound of Metallica, like the thrash sound. But I think a lot of people are kind of mixed on that album overall. But here, like like old school fans really seem to like this, but a lot of the diehards I noticed were really like, oh, this is terrible. Whether it be because you have Tommy and Eric Singer dressed up in the spaceman and the Catman makeup. I mean, that's a situation within itself. But at the same time, like you have to kind of view this as music instead of the makeup. Like that's kind of the difference between it. But anyway, so yeah, I say all that to say this: like the song, it has its moments. It's like overall not that bad, other than the chorus, but the chorus kind of ruins the song. So back to you, Stephen, with your number. So you're number 1, right?
Oh yes, Master and Slave. Here we go, Paul Stanley. Being forced to sing some stuff that pretty much has nothing to do with his entire career. I mean, like, I just don't understand. Like, it just kind of frustrates me, honestly, that you got just this one album that was actually out there, and it's just this bad. and yet it was gonna be shelved for a reason. Like just don't, just stop, just don't put it out there. Just no. Paul Stanley was gonna shelve it, so he should have just threw it under the bus. So never to be seen or heard from again. And that's where this album pretty much, it just belongs. I mean, it's just some of the absolute most just diabolical shit I've ever heard. So just bye.
All righty. So Master and Slave. So I talked about, I mean, this kind of goes back to when we was talking about Rain. So I liked Rain, Jungle, and what was the other one that I thought was okay? I Will Be There's okay. And well, and then well, no, It Never Goes Away and In the Mirror were stupid. But anyway, this song's actually not bad. It's very heavy. It's very rip roaring, fast paced kind of. Paul has some great vocals. You have that scream in the middle of the track, which is pretty darn cool. This song, like the entire album, yeah, it's not Kiss. It doesn't sound like Kiss. Like in most cases, I mean, if it looks like shit and it smells like shit, then obviously it is shit. But in this case, this isn't Kiss much at all. Like it's way removed from what Kiss ever was. And I was going to say this the first time around, but like Kiss have always talked about and tried to say, oh, like people follow us, like we set the trends. Like bull crap. No, you guys follow the trends. You don't set nothing. Like the early days, yeah, possibly, because like these were very influential albums back in the day. Like the first album through Love Gun were like very influential old school rock and roll. But then what happens? They start doing, well, disco's popular. Let's do disco. Let's do pop with Unmasked. Oh, let's go do kind of like this in like progressive rock album with music from the Elder. Oh, let's go the heavy metal route. Let's take on what the new wave of British heavy metal is doing. Let's do that. Let's do something heavy metal, and then let's do like glam metal, hair metal, and let's do blues metal, blues rock. Oh, well, let's go back to basics and do something kind of grungy and kind of heavy. And then, let's go do grunge. And then they go back with the original lineup after this, and Psycho Circus. Like, okay, well, let's just kind of continue in that direction, but let's add like more of like hair metal into the sound again. And then after this, let's go back to the original Kiss sound. And then Monster. Okay, let's take what we did on the last album, but like let's pick out the bugs. Like let's figure this out. And Kiss have always been trend followers instead of trend setters, except for in the 70s. I think they were very original with their concept, even though they took it and kind of like they took things from different people like the New York Dolls and Alice Cooper and stuff like that. But overall, like I just this album as a whole, at the end of the day, once again I just said it, but yeah, it just doesn't sound like Kiss all that much on this record. Like Gene's stuff comes off much more natural. And then you have Paul's, which are very, very, very forced. Even though like I said, I think Paul has his issues. And I think he really, if he wanted to tap into that, he could really, really make a dark album. But I think Paul Stanley is too insecure. And I'm not trying to insult the guy, but I think he's very, very insecure about a lot of that stuff. And I really don't blame him for him to be known to write the kind of music that he's known for. Like he really doesn't want to put too many of his issues out there, like from his personal state and everything, his personal life. Like I kind of understand that. But anyway, so yeah, Master Slave, not a bad song, and I believe this was kind of ripping off. So I believe it was a band, and I learned this off of the Ralph Vieira review. on Almost Human. So I believe this was a song that was kind of a rip off of a track called Prunella Scales, or it was ripped off of a band called Prunella Scales, which I believe had a couple of guys, or one of the guys from Skid Row in it. It was like a hardcore punk band at the time, and they did a song very similar to this. It came out during the grunge movement and all, and I believe this was kind of a rip off of that song. But anyway, like I like it for what it is. It's a pretty fast song, and like very well could have opened the record, and to me should have always followed Hate, because like Hate's a fast song, then you go to Rain, it's kind of like okay, like you're going straight from a fast rip roaring tune to something just very slow and sludgy and dirgy, and like it's just kind of whatever. But yeah, that's all I have to say. So I mean, overall, Stephen, I mean, what do you have to say about your list as a whole?
Honestly, it's mostly Kiss and Van Halen, I feel like. But that's just the stuff that I'm kind of conflicted on the most. Like, I either really, really like something by those bands, or I really, really don't. It's kind of the way it goes. And I don't know. I just don't know. I feel like this is the kind of stuff that, from what we reviewed, and just so it be kind of familiar, that I know that we both know. And there's definitely some bad stuff I have from other genres, but I was like, I'll just keep it in the rock realm. But anyway, I mean, I feel like this is definitely of my worst rock stuff, and I mean really, really, really bad. Like, I wanted to choose the absolute worst stuff. So I mean, if you listen to this playlist all the way through, you will pretty much hate your life. So bye.
All right, and yeah, I just realized no Clapton at all. You didn't put any kind of Clapton on here, so there are bad Clapton songs.
Yeah, I thought about that, and that just wanted to prove an underlying point that Clapton is the greatest at everything. So yeah, um,
Oh yes.
yeah, and I know that is gonna highly trigger you, that statement. So bye.
I. Oh no. So anyway, that is the episode. That's Steven's pick for the worst songs. If the other episode comes out, that'll be my pick. So you'll probably hear that before this one. In case we release it after this one, who knows? But who knows how the scheduling will happen. But anyway, so that's it. And that might be a cool idea to like put the playlists on the YouTube channel. That could be kind of an interesting idea. But anyway, so that's all I have to really say about this. I enjoy music, I really do, but there are bad. There's pretty much bad in most everything. Like, I mean, there's bad in a lot of things that you enjoy. So that's the best way I can put it. So I mean, the kind of old saying goes, you have to take the good with the bad, and in a lot of these cases, and you notice like a lot of bands, once you get later on into their careers, that's when a lot of the bad starts happening. Like when it's like Skinner kind of gets rough as you go on, and then Kiss and Ozzy, Black Sabbath, Deep Purple has some bad songs in there in different points. Van Halen, I think I already said them. Metallica, Aerosmith. I'm just looking at my CD shelf. AC/DC has bad songs. I picked one of those songs in my last episode. Rat has some bad songs. REO Speedwagon has some pretty rough songs. But yeah, I mean, like I said, any hobby you have, like there's bad in it at some point. But anyway, but anyway. So I mean, that's the episode. That's all we really have to say. That's Steven's worst songs by popular bands, I guess, or worst songs by popular bands, part 2. And we will be back with another episode very, very soon. Like, comment, subscribe. and give us some feedback. Tell us what you think of the show, good or bad. We'll take both. I mean, give us some constructive criticism, but just don't shit post. So, you know. So, anyway, that's all I have to say. Steven, you have anything else to say before we call it quits here?
Meet Jive.
All righty. So yeah, that's it. And I don't guess there's going to be any kind of pick of the week. I have not really thought of anything. So yeah, we're just going to kind of end it as it is. So thank you all for watching or listening. God bless you all. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay frosty, stay free. And we will see you on the next episode.